funny going around here. Where'd he go? See what I mean? Do you see what I mean?
We're live, so.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Chuck, you got to rename yourself.
How do I do that?
You should be able to click on the little dots by the name and it should let you change it.
How do I look now?
Better.
I'll have to play around with it for next time.
Okay, no problem. Okay, just to let everybody know, the live stream is going. I'm just waiting for our other members so we can get started. I'm just waiting on Elva for a minute. There we go. Okay, the live stream is going. We are reconvening into open session at 6 o'clock. I am reporting out that the board unanimously voted to accept the terms and conditions of the retirement and settlement agreement with employee ID number 125178. The board unanimously voted to have board members Sarah Turner and Jacob Sandoval to serve as steering committee for the evaluation of the superintendent. And our plan is for that committee to really lead to a new evaluation format in the next calendar year. So with that, if we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm moving on to 3.0. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, passes 5-0. 4.1 is Santa Rita Teachers Association. I am going to read the letter that we received from the SRTA president. This is from Kate Stover. Good evening, members of the board. It's hard to believe that we are in week 8 of our school year. Our members continue to find a rhythm to their teaching while adjusting to the ever-changing expectations. The middle school is in the middle of their conference week. Some members have reported that parents are appreciating the flexibility of different time slots that can be accommodated due to our distance learning model. It seems easier for parents to attend virtually as well. Middle school teachers have stated they are noticing more effort on the students' part to complete their assignments after their parents had a conference. Our primary teachers have expressed concerns about the amount of time their young students are spending on the computer. They are starting to see the level of learning decrease as these young students struggle having to stay focused on a computer for long periods of time. Overall, members are doing their very best to meet the needs of all their students and continue communicating with parents. As always, we appreciate the open dialogue we are able to have with our admin at all levels. Kate Stover, SRTA President. 4.2 is for California School Employees Association. Nicole Jensen, I don't believe we received anything from them.
No, we did not.
Okay, thank you. 4.3, Principal Spotlight, La Jolla Elementary, yay!
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm going to set up my presentation. Okay. Okay, so I'm familiar with Michael's presentation from last week, so I know he covered a lot of the material that you already know. So I wanted to give you an idea of our campus life right now, even though our kids are not here, but also include some of what the kids are doing as well. So of course we have business as usual. We're still carrying out all our important meetings, school site council, cafecitos. They seem to all happen in the same week, but that's okay. We're going to get a lot of good parent input, I am hoping. And of course, we're continuing the student study teams, IEPs, and we're definitely encouraging those conversations regarding any student who is struggling in professional learning communities weekly by grade level within the teachers. So safety first, we have our office all ready to go. Our ladies are doing a wonderful job up front. And this is a project that we've been working on for a bit, even before the lockdown. So we really wanted to amp up the kinder playground, especially in the whole playground, but especially kinder. We have so many, and we thought it'd be very useful to have other things for them to do on that playground. So this is Norma Bazo's brainchild. She managed to get in touch with Juan from Surrender Graphics, and they developed this concept where they had standards-based content on these screens, and they serve different purposes. Obviously, the kids will get to benefit from them, and teachers can, if they wish, have outside lessons, which would be great with social distancing. But also they provide a sense of security. So you can't look inside that window, but the teachers inside can look out still and get enough light in their classrooms. So that has been a really great addition. You can see at the top there, we have the character counts, and we just constantly remind the kids of that. And it's just something exciting. I'm really focusing on what we can do now so that when the kids return, it's that much more joyful and happy for them. So we're so excited to have them back eventually. Playground improvements, of course, we have also painted there. Eddie, our custodian, has helped with that, as well as Norma and her husband, Dino Bazo. And we had some parent volunteers help with this as well. So it's making our playground just look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. As far as staff support goes, we are definitely collaborating still. We're helping each other learn and grow, definitely leaning on each other for help and supporting each other. This is my leadership team. So we started out the year with this, and this is navigating change can be difficult, but that's why you are there. You are positioned on purpose. Part of my philosophy is that every teacher on campus should be viewed as a leader. So sometimes it's easy for us to stay isolated in our classrooms, but I definitely want to encourage all our teachers here to see themselves as really good resources for everyone. And so I have someone from each grade level here, as well as my TOSA. And then I have Janelle Silva, who's our RSP teacher to represent the SPED department. We have developed a bilingual call center. So we realize a lot of our Spanish-speaking families are only available in the evening, which isn't within our para or most of our translators' contract time. But these ladies were actually willing to alternate weeks and have a designated time on Tuesdays where teachers can refer parents to call them for any sort of tech support, Google Classroom navigation, simple homework support. They can call this Google phone number here or email at any time, and that's worked out really well. Alejandra Fuentes is our full-time counselor, and she is in great need, so I want to say thank you for providing that to our school. She's helping students, teachers, parents with all social and emotional needs. She does have her own website that can be accessed by anyone, and she has resources there as well as her own Google Classroom. Danny Crouch has been extremely valuable to our staff. She is a tech guru. She volunteered herself to make a website where she has posted tutorials that are extremely helpful to teachers. And I'm genuinely not just saying that. They come up to me all the time and say how thankful they are and how easy those tutorials are to follow. And it's just very helpful with little things that somehow she just already knows and is willing to share and teach to us. So this is an example of what she has. Our paras volunteered to be her students for some of those tutorials. So that has been extremely valuable to us as well. Our supervisors and paraprofessionals have been just a saving grace. They help with distribution. They help with classroom support. They have become part of our Sunshine Club, and that's simply to promote positive school culture. Our teachers here really miss the kids, and so to compensate for that, we're constantly encouraging and motivating and keeping them going, and these ladies have been a valuable part of that. Our theme this year was Monsters, Inc., and it still is. So they have decorated the NPR in such a way to, again, just lift our spirits. Hopefully the kids will get to see this. I think we'll keep it for the following school year as well, just so they get a chance to view this amazing artistry. And then we have classwork as well. I've been visiting, I call it bombing the classrooms and just showing up and seeing how they're doing. And that's very refreshing to see them and see their faces and to see so many of the students have everything they need. I'm just very thankful for the families that are doing that for them. So this is an example of some classwork that Mrs. Peak did for her TK class. So she created this book, and each student made a page similar to the one that she has there. She modeled it for them. And then she made copies for each student to have. And that was really a great way for the kids to know that they do have a class and just a way to connect everyone. It seems like having art projects that we can get home is very helpful. This is from Mrs. Stover's class where they're reading the book Hatchet and they're building shelter for him based off the materials that she sent home to them. And I've heard from other teachers as well, any art projects or anything they send in that sense really helps with student engagement. Second grade has provided some examples of work. They try really hard to make sure their classrooms, the Google classrooms, are not just student friendly, but family friendly as well. Mr. Briseño's class, he is very familiar with a lot of our cool tech apps. This is one called Jamboard that he uses to check for understanding. And it's very much like posting a little Post-it. But again, another way to keep the attention of the kids. Plans to further engagement. So we are going to start Student of the Month. We have developed criteria for that, and we'll have 2 winners per class. Again, to help motivate the students and to especially just establish those expectations we have during distance learning. We are continuing some novel studies. We're looking into a possible book fair that can either deliver books to the homes directly of the students or to the school. We are incorporating those spirit days every Friday. I think we're starting out once a month. And something non-work related, but again, to boost the staff morale, we're going to do a support local business party, similar to a Tupperware party, I say. Basically, we're asking people if, well, this idea came from the fact that I used to go to Flair on the Farm, which is a big craft show we have here. And so there was a lady selling candles, and I looked into her website, and I invited her to come on and talk about her product with our staff. And it's just going to be a social gathering for us and to start Christmas shopping earlier. And again, to support those local businesses. So I'm taking recommendations from anyone who wants to participate in that. And then, of course, our Halloween drive-thru is coming up, and we're planning to have the staff members dress up, decorate. We'll be giving a treat to every student. And some of those bags will have a special golden ticket, and that'll lead to a bigger prize. So again, just trying to lift up those spirits while we're going through this difficult time. And that's all I have. So thank you again for your time. Open to any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. I just wanted to let you know I was at a virtual church event the other day, and people were talking about the amazing things going on at your school. So just to let you know that people in the community are grateful for all that you do. And then, Mr. Patel, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to commend Ms. Escamilla. You know, we have a lot of high hopes for you taking over one of our best schools. All of our schools are awesome, but I think you've really created a really positive culture for the students as well as parents and the teachers. What I really appreciated was all the different things you are doing and creating with outreach to parents. You know, I love the idea of the bilingual person there providing that connection with our Spanish-speaking community. There was something in there that I really appreciated, and that was this idea of teachers working with other teachers to get through this difficult time. I saw examples of technology. I saw examples of, people creating tutorials so they can help each other. And, as a fellow teacher, there's no one else who's going to come save us. It's just us working together and creating, the best of us given situation. We're all lost, we're all kind of, learning technology and learning new things. So once again, I'm really happy you're creating a collaborative effort. And one last thing, the outreach you're doing for Halloween, I find that very creative and very needed. Right now, there's a lot of talk. We know a lot of students are going to be disappointed, that we're not going to have Halloween as normal, this year. And so the idea of having a drive-through, I hope the other campuses follow suit and provide that little celebration in a very safe manner. Continue our traditions, that area that La Jolla is in, it has a very big Halloween following. I'm just letting you know, right around you. So, you're going to have a lot of people, making sure this comes to a good fruition. So thank you for everything you're doing, and continue the great job that you're doing, leading and creating a positive culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, the safety component is the most important part of that. So we will do our best.
And Analia and Melissa, if you wouldn't mind reaching out to me, I've been brainstorming a little bit with the RIF people about how we can get RIF books out to kids during this time. And one of the real issues is the kids need to have choice, but I was thinking we might be able to do some kind of a website where the kids, have a choice of like 10 or 15 titles that they'd like to pick from, and then be able to get the books out to them. So if you're interested, please let me know.
Absolutely. Ms. Rosenthal was my kinder teacher, so
Yeah, absolutely.
I will reach out to her.
Good. Any other board questions or comments, Mr. Sandoval?
I was going to say thank you for doing the presentation. I did speak with some parents in that school as well, and they're very happy with the way things are going. And it's amazing to see how creative you and the staff are doing in trying to adjusting to the times that we're living at. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
I just want to echo on what an awesome presentation on how you're building community with students, teachers, and family members. But, just being a Spanish speaking, growing up with parents that didn't speak any English at all, and having lack of involvement because of that. I really appreciate that you have gotten the bilingual in the evenings, because that's when a lot of our parents are needing that service. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we're going to go on to 4.4, Superintendent's Cabinet, and first up is Nutrition Services.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just a few quick updates on what we have going on. So we're continuing to get ready to deliver meals. Although we still have not got guidance from the CD on how exactly to do it, we are getting ready, and we will be ready on October 5th. I have multiple calls into the CDE, just haven't got responses yet. So that's kind of how it goes with the CDE. So I'll keep working on it and keep going. We are coordinating with other districts as well. The high school district sent out some information that has, it's a Google sheet with all of the local districts on it and what stops that they would be making. That way we're not kind of doubling up in the same area. So we're spreading out and making sure we can hit as many as we can. Today, I actually went out and drove the routes myself just to kind of get an idea of where they were, how long it takes to get from place to place. And I'm going to continue to work with transportation to finalize those stops. There were some that maybe we could change. Just they're in neighborhoods, just kind of not a clear idea of where we're going to set up, but we'll get those finalized before the 5th. And as far as times, we're more than likely will be overlapping with our current serving time. So right now we go until 1 o'clock. So we're looking at either stretching it out till 2 with the deliveries, or 1:30 or 2, somewhere in that range. And then lastly, with the food bank. So I actually got an email this afternoon from the food bank. They're not sure if they can continue in October. They aren't sure if they're going to still have the National Guard for assistance, but they did want to reach out to make sure if we still wanted to continue, then we'll try to work something out. We may have to limit the amount of sites. We might not be able to do 3 sites a week, but I'll follow up tomorrow and find out exactly how we can continue that. And then lastly, not part of my update, but my son started kindergarten this year. He's actually a Panther, and he's super excited for it. And I'm glad to see the presentation tonight from Nalia. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Chuck. It's exciting to hear about the food deliveries. As far as the food bank, did they give indication as far as why they wouldn't be able to continue? Is it just the volunteer aspect or just the funding for the bag of food?
I think they're looking primarily at the fact that they may be losing National Guard assistance. I wasn't able to speak with Lillian Martinez today. I will follow up tomorrow. She did mention in her email that there's the possibility that they could continue with their own staff and volunteers. So I don't think it's a matter of the products and the funding or any of the food. I think it's more of, will they have the manpower?
And Mr. Patel, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, no, once again, Chuck, I'm just so proud of having you on our staff. I mean, from the day you took on this position, the demand and the outreach that has been come to fruition because of the various issues, especially with the virus, I just want to commend you. We just talking a few weeks ago about, hey, if they can't come to us, let's go to them. Let's use our buses, to go bring the food. And here we are today. You're developing that plan and hopefully executing it soon. But once again, I've seen the various demands that have been placed upon you, and I've seen you rise to the level each and every time. So I'm just, once again, very proud to have you part of the Santa Rita team.
Thank you. As far as the transportation, I mean, we're collaborating with them, so it's a team effort. And then with the food bank, we couldn't have got that relationship without Rosa reaching out to them. So it's a team effort. Thank you very much, but I couldn't do it without everybody else too.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? Okay, going on to maintenance. Mr. Sandoval.
Well, good afternoon to everybody. I hope I'm not blurry anymore.
You look clearer. Good job.
Okay, perfect. Well, good afternoon again. I just want to say that I want to apologize for not having that 5-year plan today in front of you. And I'm kind of glad I don't have it in front of you, because I think I just took on a little bit too much, and with the time constraints, I'm doing a lot more research on the three areas that I really wanted to focus, which is the fire alarm systems, the HVAC systems, and the rekeying of the schools so that we could have a great grandmaster keying system. So with that, I think I could possibly say that in a few weeks, I should have some more details from Division of State Architects for the modernization of the fire alarms, and also the keying systems. We're going to have to really kind of dig deep, since we have so many different systems, which I didn't realize at the beginning. So I think universally, to make it into one system, we're going to have to change out a little bit more than what we have. We're continuing to work with school facility consultants on the SFNA, and I'm hoping to have that soon. Thank you to Rosa, because she's been helping me out a lot with the student counts and stuff like that. So I think we should have that pretty rapidly from our facilities. Other than that, funding, we're waiting for our funding, and I know Rosa and I are crossing our fingers on the reimbursement that we had of the $1.2 million for Bolston Knolls, and of course the new the funding for the property acquisition and the development of the Esperana. So we're kind of sitting on that. Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free.
Mr. Sandoval, I know you've been working on this, but just something we were talking about in closed session was just making sure that we were having all the information that we've been putting together about our capacity if and when, new houses start to go in, what can we put on land that we already have, and doing things like buying the portables for Santa Rita last year. I know you've been working really hard on this, but it was something that I asked Mr. Ryan about, so I want to make sure that I asked it publicly so that the public knew that we were pursuing all options. So with that, any other board questions or comments?
Just to give you an update on the portables at Santa Rita. I've met with the architectural people and Mr. Ryan, and we kind of talked about three different scenarios. What is the easy fix, the quick fix, the long-term fix? So what we're going to be doing is probably doing a master plan for the Hoya, and also doing a replacement module so that we could actually, I would say, taking a plan and taking 2 steps forward and nothing back, so that we could actually chip away at a master plan where, reconfiguration, drop off, parking, isolation of, or not isolation, I'm sorry, but not isolation of the MCOE program that's there. Like right now, they have to actually go through the campus, which is kind of a safety issue. And I know Analia probably going to shake her head. Yeah, that's what's going on. But yeah, we're kind of looking at a broader scope so that we can actually see what we can afford, and we can actually plan to in the next few years.
Thank you so much. And I will say, having worked in public schools in California for more than 20 years, I'm aware that nothing is easy.
Absolutely.
Okay, going on to Chief Business Officer.
Good evening, everyone. So I do have a big report tonight. It's the unedited actuals for 1920. So I'm going to talk a lot about that. Just to give you an update, I know on the last meeting, I was talking about the first reporting that we had to do in regards to our COVID-19 funds for 2020, 2021, that $3 million. And there was a lot of miscommunication from the state, given different directions on what website to use, where to submit and how to do it. We end up getting all the information on that Friday. The report was due on Monday, so we were able to file everything on Fridays on time. It's done. So I just want to share that with you, that even though we had only really less than 1 day to get everything done, we were able to submit our first report for the expenditures for our new COVID-19 for 2020, 2021. And I'll provide more information as I go on with my presentation tonight. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? I know we will be discussing the unaudited actuals later. Okay, thank you. We're gonna go on. And Rosa, thank you for all you do. And that was an amazing turnaround on that report. Thank you. Okay, student services.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to touch base, so review real quickly. We talked briefly about assessments last time, and Ms. Turner had brought that up to maybe just give a little bit of a report, but I'm so pleased with the case carriers and how we're moving forward with assessments and the very open discussions that they're having with families about the reality of the situation. And what is the best course of action for a student who is due for an assessment, whether it's an initial or a reevaluation. And really putting it on the table and being very transparent of the options that we see before us, and based on how the need of the student, what is the best way to move forward. So we have a various number of things happening. We have virtual assessments going on, and some of them are partial in what we can do and get some information on the student in order to get some data to determine services that a student might require. So you have the partial virtual classroom observations can be done virtually. So we're taking a look at that as well. So it varies. The early childhood team looks a little bit different with 2-year-olds turning 3. We have families who have said, we're comfortable, we're fine waiting until small groups can come back on campus for an in-person assessment. And in some cases, I've made the administrative decision to provide some services or increase services because of COVID. And because we know these students are having learning loss. So an example might be, if a student is receiving speech already, but we're seeing some loss, let's just increase an extra 15 minutes a week on that until we're back in and can do a records review and assess. So at the moment, we're pretty pleased with how they're moving. There are not a lot of online resources for virtual assessments for special education. Pearson has some, and they're not very good, nor are they getting very positive responses from other districts who immediately purchased the entire digital package. The support's not very good. So we're going to continue to stick with the assessment protocols we have and use them in the best manner that we can virtually in a combination with records review and classroom observations. But we certainly are not withholding assessments, nor would I ever promote that. I think ethically that's horrible and wrong and would never do that. However, we are respecting wishes of families who would like to wait, and we will tell them if they change their mind, they just simply reach out to their case carrier to start the assessment. Of course, all of this is being documented through the formal IEP process. I have asked all case carriers to upload waivers that we're using that legal have devised for us for either waiting for an in-person assessment or moving forward virtually, as well as some distance learning, PWNs, and those types of items. So as of now, I'm pretty pleased, and I don't want to jinx myself. So I'm going to stop talking about how well assessments are going. Okay. With the second item I want to just update everybody on is we're, as a district, part of a disproportionality report that needs to be submitted to the California Department of Education. And quite frankly, it's about as exciting as watching paint dry, but it is something that needs to be done. We are disproportionate in the number of students receiving speech services in our district. When you reach a certain threshold, the state questions whether you're overqualifying or the need just was higher than it typically had been in previous years. So in our case, it's the area of speech. In my department, for my department, what I've done is myself and Amy Lopez and Peter Fleming is we've split up the work to try to be more effective and efficient about it. But we're really close to finishing that report. It's due October 15th. I plan on submitting it by October 2nd or probably October 2nd in case we have not submitted the proper backup or there's a problem that we have time to correct it or submit a different item of proof that the speech IEPs and assessments are intact. So we basically are given a list of 10 students that are randomly selected by the CDE, and then we have to dig in deep on every one of those students to check assessment reports, initial assessment or a reevaluation of them to make sure that all of the protocols were followed and that the student's eligibility was properly determined. Our IEP meetings are going really well. The principals have been an amazing resource for their on-site SPED teams. Every single IEP that we have needs to include 2 additional documents now that are just part of the IEP. So it's been very confusing for employees as well as parents. So it's taking some time, and that's okay. It's okay to take the time if we're doing the right thing, because if we hurry, then it just means going back and correcting mistakes when we weren't quite sure how to do that. It's also, so the 2 new forms are IEP 7B, which details out distance learning and what it looks like. And so that's required now in the IEP, as well as emergency circumstances form, which is RPT 19, I believe is the number. And those will be now part of the regular IEP template. And we're trying to explain parents that your actual IEP now doesn't need to be changed. These 2 additional documents support if there's an emergency, hence pandemic, fires, earthquake. This is what the delivery model will look like for the district. And then the distance learning paperwork, IEP 7B, talks about how services will be delivered in distance learning, the number of instructional minutes, and what the percentages look like for gen ed push-in and specialized academic instruction. So that's gone very well. The final item, myself and my colleague Peter Fleming, we split up, and he worked with the SDC elementary teachers a couple times last week, for the last couple weeks, to get some feedback of how they felt their students were doing, and is there anything that we could do differently as a school district to support those students with disabilities. I worked with the middle school team, and the elementary team was feeling pretty good. They were working well with parents. There weren't any high concerns coming out of the instructional model supports, whereas the middle school teachers, as well as parents, had some concerns about learning loss already happening. So in working with the middle school SDC teachers, we had a couple meetings, and they were wonderful. They were very productive. So they have decided when they need to provide they need and want to provide instruction to their students on Wednesday. So I worked out the compensation piece for teachers to do that, the SDC middle school teachers, with their principals, so that they will be properly compensated for their time. They will be doing 100 minutes of live instruction on Wednesdays, which typically all teachers are doing, I believe, about 30 minutes of a check-in time. It varies between 30 and 60 minutes, I believe. So they're going to add those minutes so that they can really dig in and address the goals for students in that high need area. Parents are happy. The teachers were happy. Each middle school principal has initiated the compensation piece for them, so that we stay within our parameters of our MOU and our contract. So I think that's going to be a really great way for our students with disabilities at the middle school level to not get behind on those learning loss components, especially reading and math, because we lose it quickly. So I'm very pleased with that. So that is my report for this evening. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Mr. Patel?
Thank you, Nadine. Just a couple of comments. I really want to say thank you because, when I think of the various situations we go through, it always seems like the SPED students, the special population base, always seems to get hit the worst, in terms of effective instruction, making sure they're being taken care of, making sure the IEPs are followed. And so I'm really like what I'm hearing regarding the flexibility you're showing regarding the assessments, as well as working with parents to determine when they want the assessments. Regarding the IEPs, I think, getting as many people involved as possible. I really appreciate that. And last but not least, I like the fact that, you know, you're open regarding what's happening with the elementary schools versus the middle schools. And when you are having challenges, I really like the idea that teachers are coming up with solutions with parents to address them, you know. This is a very difficult time, so I'm liking the creativity. I'm liking the community, if you will, coming together to support each other, at the various sites. But the last but not least, you know, when you were talking about speech and the idea that it was disproportional, I would think of that as a positive. You know, for me, it's maybe we're doing a better job of identifying those students who need the help compared to others. Personally, being in teaching for 20 years, I've seen that a lot of things don't get acknowledged. You know, they're not assessed correctly. And nobody wants to do it, you know. So the fact that you're identifying these students early on and we're addressing the speech issues, you know, I'm all for it, you know. So just keep it up. You know, I'm glad that we have you leading that charge with that whole entire department. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. The next thing on the list is human resources, but Tim, I'm just gonna ask you to address that in your superintendent's report, if that's okay. Thank you. And so then to educational services, yay!
Yay! So our big news is that I've put out a survey for our parents, students, and staff to fill out to give some input into distance learning when we come back to school, including facets of the plan that I'll go over tonight in our public hearing. A lot of it's really difficult because for some families they want more, other families they want less, and then trying to find that balance for meeting the needs of our students at this time, as well as, you know, our staff and our families. So that's always going to be difficult. With that said, Amelia Escamilla and Heather Baumgartner are going to reconvene our primary grade instructional planning team, which consists of all of the teachers at those grade levels, as well as those two administrators, to really dig in and look at what we're doing during the 300 instructional minutes that those teams had originally put together in the summer when we did our instructional planning, and to make sure that not only are we doing the 100 live minutes with teachers, but we're making sure that we're also incorporating age-appropriate activities and enrichment and things like that, including recess and breaks. And so the 300 minutes doesn't necessarily have to be in front of a computer screen or doing work that's computer-based. Ideally, for our primary students, quite a bit of those 300 minutes outside of our instruction would be practice, things that they would normally do in the classroom, and really make sure that if we need to reassess what kind of materials students at home have access to facilitate those kinds of things, to ease the burden on parents, and as well as make sure our staff understand what providing good instruction in a distance learning model might look like for primary students, and that we're all on the same page.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. Patel?
You know, I always do. Melissa, you said a magic word for me, and that was balance. You know, I think all districts are facing the same issue regarding, you know, different parents' perspectives on how much they want, how much they can handle, and at what times. But ultimately, it comes down to balancing the needs of everyone and what is the maximum amount of engagement you can do. It's not about how much you can do, but how much you can do well. You know, and so I think, you know, I think you're looking at it the proper approach. I'm really liking what I hear our district's doing, especially making changes on the go as we did with the middle schools. But, you know, once again, it's about balance. And, you know, sometimes the loudest voices sometimes get the most attention, but sometimes that's not necessarily best for the district and best for the mass. You know, so I think you said the correct word of balance, and I'm seeing it, I'm hearing it now. And so just keep moving forward with that, with that point of view and that goal. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go on to board reports. Ms. Ariano?
Hi. I don't have anything at this time, other than to say thank you to everybody, everybody that's in on these really challenging times, all of our board, administration, all the way down to our paraprofessionals. So, thank you once again.
Mr. Patel?
Just echo what Elva just said. I am just so proud of our district. I know I think of myself as the biggest cheerleader. Maybe I'll wear a uniform one day, but it is true. I really look at Chuck over there. Chuck, I see that little grin on your face. No, it's never gonna happen. Never gonna happen. But the point is that exactly what Elva said. You know, it's from every position all across our district, from the cabinet down to the teachers, to the secretaries, to the the food, the services, maintenance. I mean, it's just, we just have a tremendous district. I think the value of any district is how well the employees are together working, and so I am just so proud of our district. And as I said, I work for another district and I think we do a good job there, but I think we do even a better job here. So I'm just, once again, thank you to all the cabinet who's here, and thank you to all the teachers out there, and obviously the parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hargy Saldana?
Yeah, I want to echo everything they both have said. And I also work at another district, and it's clear how different and amazing the work that's happening here is. It just trickles down to every aspect. And, in the end, thinking of your families and students and how to best provide for them. So I can see that everybody works hard in all aspects. And thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jacob Sandoval?
Nothing to report, it's just great to see all the creative ways that our district and staff is just kind of accommodating the situation we find ourselves in right now. So just thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I do not have anything to report at this time, so we're going to go on to superintendent's report.
Thank you. Well, first, let me go ahead and talk for Becky Moore. She's out sick tonight. Just a couple of things that she's working on several things, but the two positions that she's going through the process of establishing screening committees and interview committees for is the temporary principal's position at Santa Rita. We'll be moving forward with that. We'll have something to bring back probably at the next meeting. And the other is the new HR technician that we recently had somebody leave and move on to greener pastures. So we will be working through those two processes. I know she's already started to reach out and get screening committees for the paperwork and then set up the interview committees as well. And doing a tremendous job with a lot of, workplace investigations and things like that. So she's, I just want her to take care of herself. So I told her to stay home tonight. So the other thing I wanted to talk about that's really, I actually want to bring some good news, promising news. And that is the state has a new, well, not new, it's been in place for about 6 weeks now, a risk level assessment, county by county in the state with 4 different tiers. The highest tier is a widespread risk. And then the next level down is a substantial risk. And then the third level down is a moderate risk. And then the lowest is a minimal risk. Right now, Monterey County is in the highest risk and has been since they started this. But what I'm seeing that's encouraging is the week ending 9/15, we had a positivity rate in Monterey County of 9.8. And every Tuesday they update it. And then just this Tuesday, yesterday, they updated it and we had a 5% positivity rate in Monterey County. The other area, and the one that's the real indicator, is the number of new cases per 100,000 people in the county. And our new cases, week ending 9/15, a number of new cases per 100,000 was at 13.2. And just yesterday, that had dropped down to 10.7. So it's promising that we're finally starting to see some numbers that are starting to lower and go down, not just level off, but actually reduce. Now, I want to voice some caution here because we've seen this before 3 times so far this year. Once in May, we saw it when the lockdown was really in effect, and then we had a Memorial Day bounce where in early June we saw it. And then in late June, we saw it start to level off and go back down. And we had a 4th of July ramp up after 4th of July. And then again, we had it again after Labor Day. So we see these ups and downs. But I think overall, the downward trend is there. We're starting to see some light at the end of this tunnel. I think we can all remain hopeful, and be able to do that. But we're not sitting back and waiting for that number. This Monday in Cabinet, we had a very lengthy discussion with everybody about let's go back and review our reopen plan. Let's take a look and take stock and inventory of our supplies, of our steps that we've taken. Melissa led us through basically point by point and literally went through and said, okay, we're supposed to have these many, hand wipes in every classroom, So we went through that plan again as a cabinet. Now we're going to go through it with principals and we're going to go through it with staff. But then next week, we're going to look and see if we can't make a district-wide walkabout and actually go in and get our eyes on everything, just so we can start to get a visualization of how things are going to work, when we do reopen, where are students going to come in, where are the parents going to drop off, where is all this, how's the traffic going to flow, are all the sites marked for social distancing, do all the sites have the hand sanitizer stations, do all sites have the different things that we had in that plan that are required for us to reopen. So we're going to start working through that for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're going to watch this. We'll watch again next Tuesday and see what the numbers do, and then the following Tuesday. What has to happen is we have to drop from the widespread, which is where we're at now, into the next level down, which is the substantial risk, for 2 consecutive weeks. And if we can do that, then we're eligible to apply for a waiver in grades TK through 6 to start to reopen and bring in cohorts and some smaller numbers of kids and bring them in under our reopen plan, which was originally designed for a hybrid kind of reopen. So we're in that process and we're already starting to, like I said, we started Monday looking at what we needed, what we said we were going to have and where we're at. And we're going to continue that process till we have it all ready. And then just, again, I want to voice caution that these are preliminary numbers. They're early. We've seen them before, but it's nice finally to see some improvement. And maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel for it. So we can try to get kids back into school and get teachers back in their classrooms so they can have that contact with students as well. Because every time I talk to them, it's really hard for teachers to be doing this and not have that personal contact. Of course, when we come back, personal contact is going to look a lot different. So we'll have to work through that as well. But I'm confident every challenge that's been thrown at us so far since mid-March, this district, this cabinet, these principals, this staff, like Sarah said, all the way, from the teachers, or Elva, all the way from the teachers down to the paraprofessionals has handled it. Chuck's department's handling it. MOT's handling it. The nurses are handling it. And I'm confident we're going to handle this when we come back. It'll be a work in progress, and we'll have to keep both hands on it at all times and make sure it doesn't get away from us. But I'm glad I'm here and going through that. I'm glad I'm on Santa Rita Union School District to go through that with this team. So that's with that, Madam President, that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Any board questions? Mr. Patel.
All right, just 2 points. I am concerned about Santa Rita principal. That is our foundational school for our district. It is the heartbeat of our district, and it is a high needs campus. And I want to make sure that, we can get somebody in there as soon as possible who can take, and to guide that school. I am concerned, and I know you're doing a fantastic job, but, the sooner the better for me, The second issue was regarding, I'm appreciating the prepping, if you will, in case we have to have some type of hybrid model in place. My main concern is always is safety, safety, safety. And I don't want to consider opening anything until I'm for sure feel comfortable that, we have pursued each and every CDC recommendation, each and every school safety factor, distancing, everything. And so that way, when we do open, and the other issue is I appreciate your cautiousness on looking at the county numbers. You said it already, it has changed on us 3 times in the past, and considering flu season is coming, considering colder weather's coming, people can be isolated more, I think we need to consider that as well. And be very cautious if we do move towards that direction, But I'm confident we will make the best decision possible at the time. So thank you, Tim, for everything you're doing for both situations.
And just to play off of what you said, the directive back when we first decided to go on this was that we wouldn't do anything unless we brought it back to the board for them to act. We weren't just gonna implement something based on these numbers in a formula. I'm gonna bring these in the next board meeting. I'll be doing a presentation on, by then I'll have enough data where it'll mean something. Right now, 2 weeks is really, it's encouraging, but it's just 2 weeks. And the other thing is, we'll bring back the plan and review that as well and give you a status check of where we're at. So we're going to be talking about this basically in every meeting between now and the time we come back. So it's part of the conversation at this level as well.
Yeah, and it's also been my understanding, Santa Cruz has been at a low level for a while, and their county health department has just said that they're not going along with schools. They could have allowed the schools to reopen, and their head of county health in Santa Cruz just said, I'm not doing it. So, we can make our plans, but we're also, have other people who may decide that they have a different way that they want to go as well.
Well, and the last piece of that, Sarah, is also looking at zip codes and that as well. But that's not data that they give me. I have to go in and dig that out and look at it. So, and they used to do it week by week in their reports. Now they're not doing it anymore. So it's even more difficult. So just so you know that's another piece that we'll be looking at and giving that information to the board and to the public as well. So they know as well. But Santa Cruz is, if you look at the state map and you see all of the widespread risks, each and every one of those counties has something in common. It's an agricultural county with a big agricultural community. And so whether it's the Sacramento or San Joaquin Valley, my former county where I just came from when I moved down here has a 20%, a 20 to 1 or 20 to 100,000 new case rate, which is double ours. And their positivity rate is in the high teens, like 18%. So we're doing better than some, but right now we were the 3rd highest county 2 weeks ago for positivity rates, and now I think we're down about 12th. Santa Cruz has done a good job because they don't have that that high concentration of ag workers. Plus, that county has taken a much stricter stance on enforcement of mask wearing and social distancing and those kind of things as well. So, but it's interesting that you bring that up, that they're even with their numbers the way they are, because they're down below 5%. They're down below 5 on their new cases. Their numbers are really low. They're right now at a moderate level, so they're actually 2 levels down. So it's interesting that they're staying that. So.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we're now down at public comment. I want to let everybody know there are quite a few letters. They all seem to be on the same topic, which is the minutes of instruction. So I'm going to give it 20 minutes. I'm going to go through the letters. I may or may not get through all of them in the 20 minutes, but I have read them all. And I would just ask Mr. Ryan and Ms. Alderman, even if I don't read it, if you could publicly, if you guys could make sure to go back. And Ms. Germany, just to let you know, some of them do reference special ed, but I don't know whether these are written by parents of children who are special needs, or these are just people who have a general concern.
Sarah, when you get, would you forward those to me so I can reach out to these parents and further, get some more information from them as well?
Yes, I will. And I know that Nicole Jensen has them as well.
I'll get them from her then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dear board members, the constant time shift of classes is a great source of stress for families trying to plan their lives around these meeting times. Now that it seems we have some kind of routine, our teacher is forced to combine TK and kindergarten, which has been made clear is due because of the new mandate. The online class format becomes very distracting and messy with the higher number of students. On top of that, TK students have to work off to the side for 10 to 15 minutes and try to block out their teacher's instructions so the teacher can teach kinder. It is an unfair and confusing task to put on TK students. Given the circumstances we are in, I feel like our teacher, Ms. Delaney, has gone a long way to express her care and interest in every student and does well to keep the class as focused and engaging as possible. I couldn't think of a harder age range to teach online, and she has done a commendable job. Thank you for inquiring for parent feedback. To whom it may concern, we are proud parents of students attending school in the Santa Rita School District. We are writing to express our concern with the requirements to have students complete 300 minutes a day through virtual program in place. As parents, we see firsthand the struggle and challenges our children are currently facing with virtual learning. Adding additional time will only increase the challenges and make it more difficult for our children to succeed. As much as we try to advocate and help them, they still feel tremendous pressure. We are doing our best to adapt to the current environment, but we have to take into account how children are feeling in order to avoid discouraging them from learning. The methods selected by the district have to ultimately encourage students to engage. In addition, ensure parents and teachers can realistically support those methods. In conclusion, the 300 minutes is unrealistic and will set not only parents up to fail, but also students and teachers to various degrees. Thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing what can be done to address this concern. This is a new letter. Hi, I hope you are doing well during these times. I am a parent of a child that attends McKinnon Elementary School. I wanted to bring to your attention that I believe the school hours and assignments are overwhelming my child that attends McKinnon Elementary School, as well as the other students that attend class. My child is in kindergarten and special education, and I feel the amount of work given in a day is exhausting them. I hope that they can be given less hours, and as a busy parent, I find it difficult to keep up with the busy schedule that's given, as well as for my other children. It is very challenging, so less work assigned and less school hours would be much appreciated. Another letter. Good evening. I am the mother of Maximus Hernandez, who is currently a kindergartner in Ms. Shetley's class at La Jolla Elementary School. I would like to express my concern over the 300 minutes required of instruction for kindergartners. Per the California Department of Education, the state's minimum daily instructional minutes requiring of 180 minutes for kindergarten. I understand the verbiage states that it is a minimum requirement, and therefore I'm requesting that the board ensures the 300 minutes of instruction being provided are modified to reflect a healthy virtual educational day, reflecting the developmental stage of our children. My 5-year-old is currently struggling to attain all of the information being force-fed to him during synchronous instruction, where schedules reflect an obscene amount of whole class time for his age. Let's be honest, how much information can a 5-year-old retain while being talked at for a full hour, to be followed by small group instruction and be too tired for asynchronous learning? Not to mention the need for assistance through asynchronous learning that is made difficult when he has 2 working parents. As a parent, I ask that the board outsources and collaborates with neighborhood districts to lower the minutes of direct instruction for a healthier balance for our children. This is another new letter. Good day to all board members, administrators, and all who are listening today. The requirement to work 300 minutes a day with SDC students, kindergartners, first graders who struggle with daily routines and need assistance majority of the day is unrealistic. My students and their families struggle with meeting this requirement, and I strongly feel that we should allow students with IEPs to have some accommodation in terms of time or amount of academic work demanded of them. I am blessed to work with families who are vocal about what is best for their children, and I join them in voicing my concern regarding the 300-minute requirement. Thank you. Okay, I think that I got them all. I had read them before the meeting and I went through everything that was in my inbox. So, Mr. Ryan, again, those were all sent into public comment. Sometimes letters were sent to me personally, but that didn't happen for this meeting. Those were all things that were sent directly to public comment. So, thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to 6.1, approve board resolution 20.09.62 GAN limit for 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021. Ms. Olivia.
Yes, so that's my item. The GAN form is part of the unedited actuals. So it's part of the big package that you guys probably over 200 pages. If you look on the last page of the unedited actuals, there is a form called TRC. And in that form, it lists all the errors that came in, or if one of the forms that I filled out or was filled out was not met, it would say on the TRC that it was not met. So this form is, like I said, it's part of the unedited actuals. We are required to board approve this in a separate item from the unedited actuals. And this form is pretty much looking at the district spending to make sure that our spending limit is not going over based on inflation and based on population. So what the form pretty much uses in the system, it uses inflation as the cost of living adjustment. This year was 3.26, and I'm talking about this year because I'm talking about unedited actuals, which was 2019-20. So I apologize for that. So for that year, they look at the cost of living adjustment, and to measure the population, they look at the ADA for the district. So based on those factors, they take all the numbers together, and it's pretty much making sure that we don't overspend more of what we receive. And the main purpose for this form is to reduce or eliminate government waste on spending funds. So we did meet the requirement. And like I said, if you ever have questions about any of the forms, you can always look at the end of the report on that form. You would see if any of the forms was not met. So that was good. We are within the limits. So we have to board approve this. Please let me know if you have any questions in regards to this.
Any questions or concerns? No, thank you, Rosa. Could I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve?
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Rosa, if I need to sign that, if you could either send it to me electronically or just talk to me later, and I'll schedule a time to come in and sign everything, because I know a bunch of these financial reports do require the president's signature. Okay, moving on to 6.2, approve board resolution 20.09.63, approving end of year budgetary revisions and transfers. Ms. Samudio.
Yeah, this is my item as well. This is pretty much at the end of the year when we're ready to close the books, we have to do a lot of transfers to make sure that everything is in balance. And we end up doing sometimes budget transfers and journal entries and things like that. This is something that we do every year. And it's pretty much, we have to do this to be able to balance all of our books and be able to close the books. So usually every year we would bring this to you for approval of those transfers. And
any questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, Captain.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. 6.3, approve the unaudited actuals for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Ms. Samudio.
yes, so that's my item as well. So I do have a presentation. It's I'm gonna try to put together a short presentation. As you know, the package is over 100 pages, probably 200 pages. So please bear with me. I'm just gonna try to summarize everything, and then at the end of the presentation, just let me know if you have any questions. So I'm gonna try to share my screen. Let's see. And looks like it's working. Okay. Are you able to see my slideshow?
Not yet, it's coming though. I see your.
Can someone tell me if you're able to see it? Not yet. Okay, let me know when it's ready, because I can't really see.
Did you select,
my PowerPoint?
A tab, or did you select the whole?
No.
Yes?
No, I selected the screen instead of the tab.
Let me
No.
try to. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna try this again. And I think Nicole is here.
Yeah,
Nicole, you wanna
Rosa,
help
you
me
were
out?
sharing your Google Meet screen with us, but we need you to share your PowerPoint screen with us.
So it's going to your tablet. Do I share
Do
my
the entire,
here, my entire screen? Okay, that's what I did last time.
and then you could click
that.
share, and then whatever your PowerPoint is down there.
There you go. Okay, so I think you can see it now.
Yes,
Thank
we
you,
can see it
Nicole.
now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to virtual
Okay, so
teaching.
I'm just gonna go through it. Thank you. So I'm gonna go ahead and book it. And then I cannot see your faces or anything like that. So if you have any questions, just stop me, or you can stop me, or you can ask at the end of the presentation. So pretty much this is the agenda. I'm gonna go over all the funds and the SACS forms, and then we'll end up with questions or comments that you might have. So when I usually do that unaudited actuals, and I want to make sure that we understand the difference. I know I do a lot of budget presentations, but these are on 1920. So, we have the first interim, second interim, the July 1st. This is not a budget. This is for actual numbers that we end up the year with. So they call it unaudited actuals because they haven't been reviewed by the auditor. The auditor is actually going to be here next week, and he's going to be reviewing this. I send out a copy to the Monterey County Office of Education. They usually review that as well, and then they send out a copy to the state, and they review, and then if they have any findings, then they'll reach out to the district. So usually when I do this, I like to compare up. I look at the actuals from last year and at the actuals from this closing year. And I'm just going to say this year because I know we're on 2020, 2021, but we're talking about our actuals for 1920. Okay. So I usually put those 2 years together and talk about the difference. So as you know, for revenue, there is an increase on the 1920 versus or 1819 because we did that 3.2% COLA from the state. We also receive about $60,000 on COVID-19 funds for 4 years. Or expenses, as you know, as usual, or expenses are always going up every year. A lot of it has to do for our salaries. As you know, we did give a 3.5% increase to the salary schedule, and that's reflected there. Also, the step and column for 1 year to another one, and the huge increase on benefits. It's also including that 10% increase that we provided on benefits for 1920, and that's pretty much a quick summary for those 2 years and the big changes. So now I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next slide. This is comparing my last budget revision for 1920 versus what we actually ended with. So I'm not really gonna go over the revenues. As you can see, the revenues were pretty close. I was only off by $8,000. a lot of the differences is on the expenses. And really what happened, COVID-19 happened. That's the honest truth. That's what happened. And a lot of the planning that we had for that year, for 1920, didn't happen. As you know, we are in a pandemic, so a lot of the services stopped. We had to send our students home, and there were just a lot of changes. So it's really challenging planning for a pandemic, especially when you never really went through it.
Rosa?
Yes.
On the bottom of the screen, is there something, or is it just my screen that's being covered at the very bottom of the final balance? Does anybody else?
Yeah, Rosa, the line, yeah, that's better. Thank you. No,
Better? Okay.
no, when you made it smaller, that was actually a little better because there's that little rectangle that's covering up beginning and ending fund balance there. So you can either get rid of that thing. Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, so this is looking at my last budget revision for 1920 versus my actuals. As you can see, the difference column really it's in regards to the expenses. We had the budget there, and the budget was pretty much on our salaries, on our books and supplies everywhere, but we didn't end up actually spending the money because again, a lot of the services and things like that, we just had to stop. So, and as you can see, we had a large, say kind of like one-time savings on our books and supplies. And when I talk books and supplies, it's not really, just books for the students. We're talking about district-wide. We're talking about pencils, paper, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer, things that we didn't end up buying. Some of them, it was because they were back order, like toilet paper, as you might know. But a lot of things that we were planning to purchase, we couldn't. And there was a lot of, guidance in regards to what kind of face masks we should purchase. We have to follow CDE guidelines, but also follow the Department of Health guidelines and the Monterey County Health Department. So there was just a lot of information. And even though we wanted to buy those safety equipment supplies, most of them were back order. So you're going to see a lot of those expenses on 2020, 2021 because of that reason. Also, there was some positions that were put on hold because we were not able to hire due to COVID-19. And I just want to remind you that back in those months when there was a lot of unknown information, we were really focusing on safety and what are essentials that we need. So we were spending a lot just on essentials and safety at that point. Of course, things started changing over the months. But that's pretty much what was happening during the last budget.
Rosa, I really appreciate this chart here because it's telling me two stories. One story it's telling me is your accuracy of your projection with revenue was phenomenal, phenomenal. I've never seen projections come so close to actual revenues in any school district. And when I see that number of 8,900, that is phenomenal. That's all I can say. The other story I'm seeing is that I don't want people to get the wrong perception. When I'm looking at expenses coming in less, and therefore some people might think, oh, we have additional revenue. In reality, we don't. That is money that has yet to be spent, but because we couldn't spend it this year, those appropriations have to be paid, in the upcoming year. So those are the two stories I'm getting from your chart. Is number one, the revenue projections were right on. And number two, even though we're showing less expenses, those are deferred expenses, not eliminated expenses. So I need, make sure that people understand that those expenses are still going to be incurred. It just wasn't during this time. So I really appreciate the accuracy and the level of frankness in this budget versus actuals. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm gonna go ahead, and that is very true. That is very true. And the reason as well that we had, you know, if you would call it savings on the 1920, it's because there was a lot of things that happened on 1920 that they're most likely not going to happen on next year. The first one is that receiving one-time money for to help out with the special education, and or build back and or contributions to special ed are really high. So that was a one-time help used from or unrestricted budget. It was or build back for students served by Monterey County Office of Education, and I'm pretty much sure you heard about this. MCOE have to lay off people and special ed, and because they did lay off people, we end up with a savings. This information, as I'm telling you right now, just came out on September 10, and I can tell you that some of the districts that closed the books on time, because as you know, I had to ask for an extension because it was just a lot of work due to COVID-19. They end up closing the books with the wrong information in regards to the bill back. So this savings that you see here, a lot of districts have to close the books with the wrong number because the information was given to us so late in the year that some of the districts were already closed. But this is something that we didn't see coming, and it was due to the layoffs. When we asked if we were going to see a similar savings on the 2020-2021, they said that they cannot provide that information yet because what happened is that they did layoffs, but they hire a little bit more of half of the people that they laid off, just different job descriptions, and they did a lot of arrangements on that. So we are not sure that we might see some savings on our current year, 2020-2021. Also, we have some budget savings on our special ed department, and this is because on the prior year, on 18-19, we had expenditures for students that needed special equipment, and some of those students left the district or moved to another district or graduated, so we didn't have those expenses on this year on 19-20. We had some of the extra hours and substitute on our salary line on the LCAP, and like I said, materials, supplies, contract services. Like I talked before, materials and supplies district-wide. So this is pretty much what I selected. The higher amounts were really to highlight where this main savings came from, just so you can see that it was pretty much a one-time savings and it's not most likely to happen next year. The travel and conferences was about $52,000. I just included here because I know some of the teachers and just people in general were questioning, and or utilities as well. As you can see, it's not a lot of savings, but I know that people wanted to know that information. It's not like hundreds of thousands of dollars like some people might think. It was very minimal compared to our overall budget. The contributions to our cafeteria, the cafeteria fund ended up with a surplus this year, so we didn't have to do the contribution from the general fund. So that was another one-time savings, and I say one-time savings because that department is needing a lot of support, and it's working very, very hard to be able to provide the meals. The one-time COVID-19 fund that we received, it's helping out that department to meet with the request of providing those meals for our students. But that fund is running out on 2020-2021. So as soon as that fund runs out, we're going to start tapping to our general fund. As you can see, our OPEB payment that we usually been doing year after year based on the last conversations that we had with the board, it was okay for us to stop this payment now at this point because we've been funding this liability for so long. This is the right time to take a break because we are gonna need that cash, those reserves, and I'll go a little bit into details with that. Also, on some of the difference in our expenses, you're gonna see the school bus emission grant. So we did receive the bus is here. We received it in August, but because we physically received the bus in August, we have to book it on our 2020, 2021. And the reason for that is because we were expecting to actually receive the bus on 1920, but again, there was a delay because of COVID-19. So you're gonna see a difference on the expenses side, but that's gonna be on 2020, 2021. And we did receive the grant, we have the grant, and we are gonna get the title. So kudos to Victor Sandoval for doing that, applying for the grant and actually going through and getting everything processed. So that's just some of the highlights that we have, and you can call it, the changes for the budget, the one-time savings, things that more likely we're not gonna see next year. If you see at the total bottom, it's once you add up everything, it comes out pretty high. There were obviously other savings into field trips, repairs that we didn't do on 1920 and things like that. But it was just a lot of accounts, and it was, a few $1,000s here, 2,000 here, 3,000 here. So I just selected the ones with the higher amounts. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next slide. So usually when we all go over or ending fund balance or unrestricted ending fund balance, in the past, we set up aside for, like I mentioned before, for OPEB liabilities or COSTERS and PERS contributions or step in column or increases for special ed. This year is different because this year we are in a recession, and this year is the year that we need to use those reserves, to use those savings for the cash deferrals. And I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that. But as you can see, the minimum reserves that we need to have based on our district revenues and expenses is about $1.2 million. Just so everyone knows, a 1 month of payroll for our districts is about $2.7 million. So if the district would have decided in the past just to keep the 3% minimum, right now we wouldn't even have for 1 month of payroll. So I'm gonna touch deferrals. What is that? Pretty much what I like to call them is pretty much a cash delay. It's the state saying you're gonna get the funding, but you're not gonna get it on time. And we're talking about cash. We're not talking about budget. That's something different because the state is saying you're gonna get this amount, but the actually payment that you're gonna get, you're not gonna get it until next year. So this year we're gonna use our reserves to help out with the cash delays, and I'm gonna explain how. So this is, anyone can really go into the city website and pull out this information. This is the latest information as of September 2020. And I said latest because the last time I checked, they told us the last payment we're gonna receive was gonna be in February. Now they switched that. It looks like the last payment we're gonna receive is gonna be in January. So I'm gonna keep checking this website, almost on a weekly basis, because as you know, a lot of things are changing, a lot of directions, and we just wanna make sure that we're prepared. I just wanna remind everybody that we are in the middle of a recession, and even though that at the beginning they were saying you're gonna get a $3.1 million cut, now they're saying so this is pretty much saying, so we have our LCFF funding, and as you know, our LCFF, it's 80% of our district's total revenue. So if you see on the first month line, that's when the first cash deferral starts. So for February 2020, they usually would give us a percentage of our apportionment of our LCFF. If you read where it says repayment month or February money that we would usually get, we're gonna get it until November of 2020, 2021. And our March apportionment, we're gonna get it in October, and our April and September or May apportionment, we're gonna get in, and you see the, how this is going. I'm not gonna read, I almost read all of them, but it's pretty much saying, after January, you're not getting any more payments. We're not gonna pay you the rest of the money until next fiscal year. Well, the problem is that we have payroll, we have employees to pay, and we can tell the employees, hey, we're not gonna pay you until next fiscal year, right? We have to still pay our utilities, our electricity, and pretty much what's more important than anything, or employees. So when I do the calculation on our total principal portion, which is the part of the LCFF revenue, or total apportionment is for $25 million or $25.6 million. The total payments that we are receiving from June to January, because remember, our last payment is on January, we're only gonna receive $12.1 million. We're not gonna get the $13.4 million. All that is a cash delay or cash deferral. So the districts right now, I know in some of their districts are really looking into loans, getting trans, and pretty much getting in debt. For us, for our district, what we're gonna do this year, like I said, we're gonna use our reserves, because that's where reserves are for. And we're gonna use it to help out to pay for our payroll and our payment obligations. So on the next slide, I'm pretty much saying using our ending fund balance or using our reserves, it's pretty much gonna be used for payroll and for payments that we have to do. When you put those things together, the difference is $296,000 that we're still short, but I'm confident that we can make some reductions in our budget, and we're gonna be able to really come up with that cash from some of our savings. So as you can see, we're using all of our ending fund balance to help out with the cash deferrals. And like I said, this is public information. Anyone can go into the city website and see our payment schedule, and they can add it up for the months. It's if you want that information, if you want the link, I'm happy to provide that. And I'll make sure that I provide the copy of my PowerPoint and the copy of the unaudited actuals in our website once it's approved and signed. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move toward child development.
Actually,
And
sorry, Rosie. First of all, I want to say, thank you to our district and the district and the pathway for creating a huge reserve so we can handle this information. But what I'm concerned about is the fact that even with these deferments, the state said that they were expecting money from the federal government. And if that didn't happen, then this situation might even get worse, So I don't trust the California state government. I know they're defraying the payment of it. But if they don't get the federal government money that they've included in the projections, my fear is that the actual amount will get worse, even though we have a huge reserve that we can take it now. So I know other districts are looking at possible loan program where they get a short-term loan to carry them through. Maybe we should be exploring that. And the reason I say that is in case, I just want to make sure we're preparing for the worst. Once again, I don't trust our state numbers. All the projections are based on some assumption that they were going to get federal money. It hasn't happened. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, And so I'd rather be a little bit more conservative. And I'm not saying get a loan, but I think we should be looking into that in case something does happen that makes our good situation, which we currently are in with a buffer, if you will, because of the reserves. I want to make sure that that also extends if it gets worse, and we have the proper funding available. So once again, thank you for this presentation so far, but that is my only reservation about the numbers is I don't trust the state whatsoever. So because of that, it's going to be hard to, incorporate those inconsistencies.
yes, and I totally agree with you, because like I said, last time I checked, or last payment was in February, and they said the last payment is in January. So I'm gonna be checking very often the website to make sure that nothing is changing, and I'm also gonna look into options if we have to get a loan, what would be the process and what would be our resource to that. So I'll go ahead and move the next slide. This is pretty much our preschool fund, and I'll go really quick on this one. This is, as you can see, if we're comparing the revenue from prior to 1920, we did get less revenue. A reason is because on the 1819, we had a local grant that we received, and that was not available in 1920, but also our state income came in lower. This is one of the funds that is a reimbursement fund, and we don't get the money, the end of June when we are closing the books. Usually, for example, for our June apportionment, we would get it around this time or a month later. So when reaching out to CDE and getting information, they just, the time I closed the books on 1819, they just didn't have the information. It's been really challenging to work with that department. So I'm really trying my best, but because we didn't get all the revenue that we were supposed to get, we end up with a deficit, and to be able to balance the books, we end up getting a transfer from our general fund. As you know, we already paying for parents' fees on that fund, and a part of it was we had to transfer from the LCAP to pay for those parents' fees, which it was $165,000. And then the rest of it, the 156, it was just due because we were not, we didn't have enough students on the 18-19 based on the requirements, or enrollment was down. So that was pretty much why the contribution was higher this year. This is our cafeteria department, and as you can see, federal revenues were a little bit up, but something to be aware is that our local income for 1920 was definitely lower than the prior years, and it's gonna continue to be lower for 2020, 2021. So this fund and this department might need a lot of help because, like I said, they've been working very hard and making sure that they're providing those meals to our students. The local income that you see there for $65,000 is a local grant for equipment that Mr. Chuck applied for, and he received this. So kudos to him for that. And he used the money, part of the money on 1920, and he's going to use part of it on the 2020, 2021. But what I wanted to point out is the local revenue. Usually this department would have sales for our students for food and catering services. And this year, because of COVID-19, that's not going to happen. So when I present that on the 2020, 2021, you're going to see a big decrease on our local income. And as you can see on the very bottom page, they did end up with a $15,000 surplus. So that's the reason why they didn't need a transfer this year. So kudos to that department again, and good job on this. This is our deferred revenue. This is pretty much the plan that Mr. Sandoval provided to you, and pretty much on the projects that were scheduled within I believe it was during the next 5 years. When looking at the expenses for 1920, there were repairs as usual, expenses for the safety, fire alarm, and inspections, and roof repairs for Gavel and View and McKinnon. That's some of the major expenses on that fund. Now on the next funds, there was really not a lot of activity. The Fund 25, it's our developer fee. developer fees fund. So that's pretty much the money that we receive whenever there is construction going on. This year, we receive about $78,000 on developers fees. And this is the fund where we spend most of it on the new portables. Or ending fund balance is $154,000. Fund 35, it's really no activities, just a carryover balance of 118 over the last 2 years. And the same with Fund 40, it was for special outlay projects, and that's a ending fund balance that's been rolling over. The Fund 51 is the fund that our county treasury keeps track of it. We don't even have access to it here on our financial system. It is our bond interest fund, and we are required to report it in our unaudited actuals every year. This is the only time that you would see those numbers on my reports. So as you know, Form A summarizes our District 80A. On the 1920, we got funded based on our ADA for 18-19 because we had a small decline of 16.98 ADA. The Form assets is our assets that we have here. Form CEA is an important one. This one, it tells the district if we were able to meet at least 60% of our expenditures in the classroom, pretty much on teacher salaries, and we were able to do that on 1920. Even though, as I mentioned before, we had some savings on our salaries, we still were able to meet our requirement. I know a lot of the districts that didn't, and right now they're working on waivers because they were not able to meet that minimum percentage. So we did a really good job on that. Then we have our debt form. It's pretty much our pension liabilities and GO bonds. And our ESMOE form, it's pretty much to making sure that we're spending enough of money on our special ed students. And we met the requirements for that form again. And a little bit more about the other forms. ICR is pretty much making sure that we spend our indirect costs, which is the 4.35%, and to make sure we don't go over that. And our Form L, it's pretty much a summary of our lottery revenues and expenditures. The next form is information in regards to our FTEs, and then Form SIAA represents the summary of fund transfers. And the next two forms, it's pretty much to make sure that we're spending enough every year, again, for our special education students. And this year, we were able to meet that criteria, even though we had those savings, one-time savings. And the TRC, or the technical review checklist, pretty much reviews the whole report, make sure everything is balanced, make sure all of the forms are accurate, make sure that we met all of the requirements. If there's anything that is unbalanced, that any forms that are not accurate, or anything that we didn't meet or we didn't spend enough, it would come up here in this form. That page is clean, thank goodness. Okay, that's pretty much what I have. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Jacob, you had a question?
Yeah, no, I think it's just have more money to on funds. So I appreciate you did it. So savings really
Thank you. Rosa, can you mute your mic for just a sec, please?
Okay, yes, so I'm not having a hard time hearing everyone, I think. So I'm gonna exit this this slide, and I'll.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, Mr. Patel?
No, I just want to thank Rosa. I think she's been very conservative in her approach and her assumptions. I think her forecasting abilities are phenomenal. And I like the idea of being, upfront regarding what's happening and what's gonna happen next year, and, you know, and preparing us for the additional, you know, challenges we're gonna face. So once again, keep up the conservative, assumptions and your accurate forecasting. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add thank you for all the hard work. I'm absolutely sure, along with Neil, that I want to be wrong, but I think that the tax dollars are not going to come in, and that we're going to end up with not getting the funds that we are owed by the state of California. And I appreciate any deductions that we can make, just in terms of, I have an expectation that revenue is going to go down, and I also have an expectation that we're going to be dealing with deferrals, so that cash is going to continue to be a problem. But thank you for the excellent work there. If there's no other questions, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
A second?
Well, Mr. Sandoval actually went first there on the seconding, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0, thank you. Okay, going on to personnel, approved MOU between Santa Rita Union School District and SRTA, Ms. Alderman.
This is our item for the adjustments that were made in the MOU that we needed to ratify. I spoke to you about it last time. We didn't get our items to you in time. So this indicated the additional instructional minutes, the changes to our parent-teacher conferences, as well as the additional language from CDE.
Any questions or comments?
I just want to commend SRTA and our admin staff for working together. I know we're going, you know, this is the second or third set of MOUs. So, you know, having the Teachers Association work hand in hand to get us through this difficult times, you know, I really appreciate, you know, both sides working together on this. So I hope it continues way into the future.
Can I get a motion?
A motion to approve?
I second?
All those in favor?
Aye, aye, Captain.
Aye.
All right. Sorry, Ms. Saldana and Ms. Ariano, I couldn't actually hear you.
Aye.
Aye.
Just so you guys know that I am actually listening every single time to make sure that we get all the board. Okay, so it passes 5-0, thank you. Okay, educational services 9.1, move to public hearing for local continuity and attendance plan. So we are going to go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:45, and Ms. Alderman, if you could walk us through it.
Okay, so normally LCAP stands for Local Control Accountability Plan. This year it stands for Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. So this document here that is up for public hearing and will hopefully move to approve it next week with any additional comments considered is really a one-year plan instead of our normal 3-year LCAP that really lays out what our action plan and strategic actions are for across 3 years. This template is to memorialize the actions that the district is taking in this time of the pandemic, as well as memorializing what effects the initial shutdown of schools had upon the district, our students, our families in the spring, and how we're working to mitigate the learning loss. So the dollars that you see in this plan, it's not a very long template. As you'll notice, it's only 11 pages. And so it's a lot briefer than what we're used to with the normal LCAP. So it's really to give the broad strokes of the actions that we're taking with the learning loss mitigation funds that the state sent to school districts this year, as well as what we're doing with our LCAP funds. So I'm going to attempt to, what I really want to point out for the public with opening this for a public hearing and taking comments. I believe we sent the link for our survey today. I think it was scheduled to go out this evening again. We've gotten 676 responses so far. I'd like to get many more. I worked with Mr. Gutierrez last night to present this to our DLAC for the district to get some input specific to our English learners. And we've set up an email for people to submit written commentary, questions, concerns, or other actions that they feel could be incorporated in this plan. So I'm going to take you over to the district website because I really want to point out for our stakeholders who are watching or who may watch this recorded, where they can go to see this plan in English and Spanish, as well as where they can go to submit those comments that they have for us as part of the stakeholder feedback. So let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, so I believe you're all seeing the district webpage now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so on the front page, we have a radio button here that just simply says SRUSD 2020-21 LCAP draft. So if you click that link, it takes you to our LCAP page. This explains a little bit about this plan here. I know we put it in a couple places. I really want to illustrate to people that I'm looking for feedback on this document in English or Spanish as people go through it. They have questions. It's really important to me that anytime Santa Rita creates such a document that we're accurately reflecting our intent behind our actions, as well as really addressing the needs of our family, our students, and our staff. So as you can see, the plan is first in English. We talk about our stakeholder engagement. You'll notice that the plan has a couple of sections. It has one section for in-person learning. So these are the actions that we will implement when it is safe to do so, and outline some of the broad strokes of the safety measures that we've put in place and what instruction would look like if we're allowed to open a hybrid model, as well as our distance learning support that we've implemented, because this is the model that we were obligated to begin our school year in, as well as how we're mitigating the learning loss of our pupils, the strategies behind that, and addressing such specific areas as our mental health, our social, emotional well-being of our students, our family engagement, how we're keeping pupils engaged with instruction or re-engaging those who have sort of fallen behind, and keeping them engaged. And so specific that we discuss our school nutrition, as that has become an increasingly important area in distance learning, making sure that our family's basic needs are met, such as food. And then how we're addressing the needs of our most at-risk students as well. And then the plan is also here in Spanish, and I really want to thank my bilingual administrative assistant, Jennifer Nunez, for putting the work into translating this document for me. It wasn't easy, and she had to fit everything in a template. So I'm really blessed to have her working for me and doing this kind of work. So again, for me, opening a public hearing on this document is really about engaging our stakeholders one last and final time before I bring a final draft for board approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
No, I just want to say thank you for also making it in Spanish, even though it's extra. I'm sure a lot of families appreciate that. So thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work for reaching out to families. Any other questions or comments?
Sarah, just one thing really quick. Melissa, when I looked through the plan, a couple of things really stood out to me, and that was the stakeholder group and having the teachers and their responsibilities and roles they're playing. And the other was the connectivity issue as well as device issue. And Tim, I just want to commend you and our admin for, that's been a #1 issue in Monterey County. And the fact that it's in the LCAP, and the fact that when I look at the connectivity issues we're having in our district, which is almost none. And the fact that we have enough devices and the fact that our district offered our devices to other districts to get them through, I think is commendable. So those are the two things that really stood out to me when it comes to the LCAP with the new, attendance terminology in there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? And I just want to thank you for, again, getting all the info. I really appreciate reaching out to all the parents and getting their information. So with that, we're going to close the public hearing at 7:52. And then we're going to move on to 9.2, which is a motion to place the local continuity and attendance plan on a special board meeting agenda for Wednesday, September 30th, 2020 for approval. So any questions before I ask for a motion? Okay, may I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye, Captain.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Alderman. Okay, going on to 10.1, approved contract with East Shore Consulting LLC for service with regards to bonding work involving future development.
Yes, this is a new company. The company we used before, which was Public Financing Consultant with Miguel Rodriguez, who came down and helped us with our refinance a year ago last February. He has now moved because that company has shut down its school facilities consulting department. And so he's actually moved to this new company that does the exact same thing. He reached out to me a few weeks ago and to let me know he'd gotten a job and he'd been specifically looking to do this work still. So this is just a new contract with them in particular to look at bonding options to help us with our bond reporting on the reorganization and to help us get ready for anything that's going to happen in the new West Area specific plan development area if we need to look at bonding over there. So that's what this is. It's just a replacement of a company that went out of business or pulled out of this sector to a new one, but the same person that served this district for the last 5 years.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, can I have a motion?
A motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we're down to 11.1 future agenda items and times, but I actually received a public comment while we were in session, so I do want to read that public comment. So this says, hello, the settings on the Chromebook provided by the district are not user-friendly for any 6-year-old. We experience lost assignments when the device is inadvertently closed prior to submitting them onto Seesaw. We have yet to be able to access Zoom for a safer learning experience, and teachers are not able to see their entire cohort while using Google Meet. Please consider manipulating the settings so our children can invest their time learning and not redoing assignments and learning in inadequate environments. And that was sent to the public comment website, so it should be, if anybody at the district wants to review that letter, it's at the public comment website. Are there any board members who have specific things they would like agendized for future meetings? Okay, as mentioned earlier, we will have a special meeting next week. We're revising, looking at our distance learning plan and the LCAP under the distance learning plan, and then our next regular meeting will be held on October 14th, 2020. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
I second.
Second.
Mr. Hargy Saldana, he beat you again, so you gotta be faster. Okay. All those in
Okay,
favor?
I personally want to see an arm wrestling. My money's on Amparo. I mean, he's got guns. Look at those guns.
I think she would win too.
All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you guys so much, and we are adjourned for the evening.
Thank you.